after reading many articles and books and absorbing many lessons about work-life balance from some of the world's most successful people, I want to distill some of the top lessons for you so that you can improve your work-life balance. Because this is something that young people struggle with. This is something I've been asked, and I think I can give you some tips. So a good portion of people who want help with work-life balance can do it all. That's right, you can have a social life, a family life, and an exceptional career and have enough time for each of these. And you can do this by simply better managing your time. More specifically, you can do this by understanding all the time you're wasting. You're usually not aware of how much time you waste in a day. Take the average example. This is very common for young students and young professionals. If you were to, and I suggest you do this, if you were to take out a piece of paper and pencil and track how you spend every minute of your time for an entire day or an entire week, you will be shocked. It won't be a surprise for me, if you were wasting at least 2 to 3 hours every day doing stuff you shouldn't have to do, that you should cut out. Think of all the stuff you do in a day that's not related to work. In the typical 9 to 5, there are times when you're talking to people at the water cooler. That's 9 minutes right there. Then you talk to another person at the water cooler on your second run around. 12 minutes there. And then you do a third time. Tack on your lunch break and the socializing that happens there. 39 minutes there. Tack on that bathroom break, which took 19 minutes instead of 6 because you checked your phone, you went on Instagram and Facebook, and you chatted another person there. That's time off. And then tack on all the times you checked social media when you wanted a break from work. 5 minutes here, 9 minutes there. And it just sucked you into a rabbit hole that turned into 17 or 20 minutes sometimes. So you can really start to see how you're starting to waste all this time. And then outside of 9 to 5 hours, that's usually where most of your time is wasted. Because frankly, most people are not doing much before 9 or after 5 that is that productive. When you study how they spend their time, sure, maybe 1 or 2 hours is spent on actual productive work. Some are exercising, doing laundry, doing dishes, cleaning their room. But then, what about the other 7 hours from 5 p.m. to midnight when you go to sleep? Usually that's spent watching Netflix, going on YouTube, socializing with friends, drinking at a bar, something that is not conducive to your priorities. And that is plentiful time to really recoup your losses and get better at your work-life balance. You can spend that time better towards your priorities, whatever they may be. So understanding that and finding better, more healthy, productive ways of taking and systematically taking breaks can help tremendously. So rather than going into something that is psychologically designed by thousands of employees at Twitter or Facebook to suck you in, so rather than spending time on social media, you can spend that taking a fresh walk with nature that only lasts 5 minutes. That'll give you the relaxation you needed to get back to work without getting sucked into 17 minutes or even 10 minutes on Twitter or Facebook or whatever else you're on when you're checking that platform. Now, once you've recouped all this time by acknowledging and being aware of it and managing it better, it's time to decide on your priorities and then dedicate as much time to each of these as you can. Now, there is another group out there who have managed their time effectively, and it's more about sacrifices. These are the super moms. These are the people who are killing it in their career, managing their time after work effectively, and also raising 1 or 2 or multiple children. And that's taking up all their time. These are also the people who are who have a goal of knocking it out of the park with their career. They're not just trying to do above average. They want to become the best of the best, which means working weekends as well, working after work, just outworking other people. And when you check these people, which are a minority of the population, they've already managed their time pretty well. Even some of them, but that's it. Some of them still need to examine and log every minute they spend, because even they can do better. But when they examine their time, they're exhausted. They're so tired. They don't get enough sleep, and they don't have a strong work-life balance. They're not spending enough time with family or friends or whatever else. So these people, it's about understanding it's okay if you're not perfect, and looking at successful examples of people who realized the sacrifice and were okay with it and did the best that they can. People like the billionaire founder of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, who has like 4 or 5 children and runs this business empire. And when you look at her Instagram posts and Instagram stories, she's exhausted. She's going through all the struggles that a mom would, plus the modern life of also having a job, and a crazy job at that. So forgiving yourself and being okay with not being a perfect mom, and realizing that even a superstar like Sarah Blakely has all those moments where she's just exhausted, where she makes a mistake, where she forgets to go to one, of her kids' soccer practices, or just messes up in some way. That's understandable and that's okay. So now you set your priorities. Make sure you know what they are. Some people, it's different for each people. Some people want career and family, and that's about it. Others want career and dating a life, and they don't really care about family because their family is very toxic and it's not good to be around them. Others might be family, dating life, and friendships and social network too, but not to an extent. So that's lower down on the list, but still on the list. So once it's different for each person, but once you find out what you want to do, what you prioritize in order, then dedicate as much time as you can to each, to the point where you think it satisfies your goals. Now, what you'll realize is that there is a point of rapidly diminishing returns with each of these. So after that point, you can cut it off without having much of an effect. For example, if you have teenage children, or you just, burdened, spending so much time with your family, there comes a point where they don't really care if you're around for the 9th hour that week. After the 6th or 7th hour, they're like, okay, you're there. Or sometimes, especially with teenage siblings or teenage children, they're like, I want my space. I don't want you to spend even 2 hours with me. Just like, give me my food and leave me alone. I want my independence. So then any extra time you spend with them is counterproductive. You can sense that and back off and devote all that time you've now been given to something more useful. So this is something that you have to kind of gauge and feel out. And you never want to get too close to that point where they have to tell you to spend more time with them, because then you've already gone too far in the other extreme. If your spouse is telling you you're never home, you need to spend more time with the family, that's not a good sign. But there is a point where, the 9th hour you spend with your friends is not so much different from the 4th hour you spend with them that week. And your friends aren't benefiting from it, or don't really care if you're there after the 5th hour, and you aren't benefiting from it because they just talk about sports and drink beer and play video games. You're like, okay, I got the most out of it. For me, social networks, friendships are important, and part of my priority list, because they help with my happiness and mental health. If I don't have them at all, that's bad for those things. But if after a certain point, they aren't. And sometimes the friends I do have access to are not these, perfect role models in wealth or fitness or any of those things, but they're friendly people that keep me company. So I don't, go crazy with spending time with them after I've reached and sensed that point where, I feel content with the time we spent that week or that month. I don't have to overspend it. I can shift it back to more career or more family time. So that's it for work-life balance. Hopefully it helped. And again, I strongly suggest you check out Sarah Blakely's Instagram.